Hi, my name is Mary Saputo, and I am the Outreach Community Coordinator here at Oasis. And today I'm joined by Patrick Cousins. We're going to discuss his class that's coming up on June 13th in 3 different segments about the book, The Sunflower. To start, I would love to know more about your background and what led you to become an instructor at Oasis.
Thank you, Mary. I've been working at SLU for about 17 years now. And for about 15 of those years, I've been teaching in the theology department at SLU. And for most of that time, I've been teaching The Sunflower as part of my introductory theology class. And when 18 to 20-year-olds tell you I couldn't put this book down, that's an indication to me that it's a keeper. And when I've introduced this book to other colleagues who teach in my department, numerous of them have adopted it for their classes as well, because the same reaction, right? I can't put this down.
Excellent.
The questions are so perennial.
Well, for those who haven't read The Sunflower, how would you describe the central moral dilemma of the book, and why do you think it has resonated with so many people for decades?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, the encounter, the dilemma at the heart of the book is that Simon Wiesenthal, the author, is in a concentration camp. And at a work site, he gets brought into a confrontation, an encounter with a Nazi who is on his deathbed. And this Nazi wants to tell him his story and ends by asking for his forgiveness. And I think what makes it so powerful is not only that encounter of such opposed identities, the Jew and the Nazi coming to face each other as real human beings, but also that he doesn't just tell you the story, he ends by asking, what would you have done in my circumstances? Which makes it impossible to keep it at a distance. I can't read this book just as a story about something that happened to 2 people, but that it inevitably draws me into what would be my motivations and my thinking and feeling that would drive me to make a decision of how I would respond.
Yeah, and there's so much background of his experience up until that point, of course, and it's just phenomenal. In your class, will you be approaching the book primarily from an historical, ethical, or personal reflective perspective, or perhaps a blend of all 3? That's a mouthful.
A little bit of all 3, but I think the personal reflection is what makes the book so powerful for me. It can't help but bring in elements of the history of that time, including Wiesenthal's own history as a Jewish man at that time. But the personal reflections, I think, are what make it so compelling. Beyond that, though, I found myself, when you asked that question ahead of time, the word that kept coming to my mind was anthropological. That I think he, even if he's not trying to, asks hard questions about what is it for me as a human being to be encountering this other person who I think is a human being, but at once feels very different and very similar. Again, that opposition of the Jew and the Nazi encountering, but are simultaneously 2 young men whose death is a hair's breadth away. And so the tension of similarity and difference in our shared humanity is just...
And is he really representing his race, his religion, or is he making that decision? Yeah. I know. What do you hope participants walk away with after taking this class? And is there a particular shift in thinking or reflection that you hope to inspire?
Maybe this is naive of me, but I am well aware that we live in a moment, and maybe every moment in our history is a moment in which people live in wildly different media ecosystems. And it can be really easy for people, I think, to dismiss the other who is outside of my particular echo chamber. And what's fascinating to me is that after this encounter, Simon can't let go of this Nazi, to the point that his friends who are in the camp with him cannot understand, why in the world are you wasting so much energy on this guy? He became monstrous to his friends because he couldn't just let it go. And perhaps, again, this is naive, but perhaps I hope that this book will offer some kind of a foot in the door to the encounter with the other whom we might want to, with every fiber of our being, write off, but who we can hold on to some sliver of shared humanity.
Why do you think it's so complex, and what can we learn from exploring these complexities together? Pretty much what you've already kind of said, actually.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I think about the way that this book goes is, so the subtitle of the book is On the Possibilities and Limits of Forgiveness. So the questions that he asks is not simply, should I forgive, should I not forgive, but can I forgive? The Nazi didn't do anything to Simon. Do I have the right to forgive, to speak on behalf of those who are dead at this man's hands? Can I dare to speak on behalf of God, if that's the direction you want to take it? How, many of us, like me, coming from a theistic upbringing, theistic background, mercy and forgiveness are terms that are put out there not only in terms of the God that you talk about, but things to emulate. And at once, in a circumstance like this, the other who is asking forgiveness, you can't help but think about all of the damage to real human beings. How can you forgive that? How do you move forward in the face of so much destruction with a good conscience? So for me, it's one of those perennial tensions.
Sure. For someone who might be a little unsure or intimidated by a course on such a weighty subject as this, what would you say to encourage them to give it a try?
I was thinking about this because on the surface of it, it's Holocaust literature, which can sound really weighty. And obviously the Holocaust is right there, foregrounded throughout the book. But for me, the question that it asks is perennial. It's a question of its moment, but it's also a question of ours, which I can't tell if that makes it more or less weighty, that it's not only a question about the Holocaust, something that none of us ourselves have been involved with personally, but that the fact that these questions are still so live in some ways makes it weightier. So I guess I would say that the questions that it asks are so fundamentally human that if you are concerned about being human and about digging into our shared humanity, it's a book that I think is compelling, not just weighty, but that it has so much reward inside of it that even a little bit of
and it's so much more than just history. There's so much more behind this and the conversation. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I can't wait for everybody to enroll in this class. You're going to love it. And thank you so much, Patrick, for coming today.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you.